me today for the first edition of, well, whatever we're going to ultimately call this. Some witty name that's not car talk, probably. Or maybe it will be. Who knows? Welcome back to those of you who've been here before, and welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. I'd love to make eye contact, but I'm presently driving, so you're just going to have to imagine that I'm speaking directly to you, even though I'm trying to watch the road. So, this will be, I guess, the first of these I've done with video. I've done a few of these with audio, but this will be the first one with video. And like I said, we'll come up with some witty title, because like Brad, I spend quite a bit of my time during the week on the road, so I figured I may as well attempt to start recording some solo things here. Hopefully you guys like them. If not, tell me down in the comments, and I'll not quit my day job. So, this is actually a re-recording. The first attempt had some sound issues, and I'm hoping this one doesn't also have those sound issues, but I'm not going to know that until I listen to it later, so fingers crossed. So today, much like the overall plan for these videos, is to basically just talk about random topics. And some of this could just be like stream of consciousness stuff that I end up breaking up into different videos. Some of it could be, hey, something's on my mind. Hey, I watched a movie last night. That was kind of where I was going with the how to adapt movies into D&D stuff that I haven't had an entry in for a while. Although I do have another one of those recorded. I just have to see how it looks after editing. I decided to switch to video. I'm probably going to stick with that because the audio kind of left a little bit to be desired. It gets a little intensive on trying to edit images, create an image montage that shifts exactly when I need it to with a fixed audio file. I'm sure there are people out there that are excellent at that. I'm not one of them. Decent. You can check out the Conan, and I think I ended up making the Red Sonja video also, if you want to see examples of how I've had to do that. But anyway, there'll probably be minor pauses where I have to do what I did just now and pass someone who pulled out right in front of me on the highway and decided to drive quite slowly. The joys of living in a rural area, people have no concept of how to drive properly or obey traffic signals or, basically anything. So the upside is, I suppose that gives you free reign to do the same. I wouldn't if I were you. But that's just me. So anyway, like I said, this is a re-recording. Didn't like the sound of the other, and I've had a little bit of time to think about what I said in the other and kind of clarify my thoughts a little bit here. So one of the hobbies that I have and Chad kind of shares that I haven't really touched upon is action figure collecting. And at the moment, what that means is primarily buying the G.I. Joe classified figures, which are 6-inch highly detailed figures, the Marvel Legends figures, which again are 6-inch super detailed figures, and occasionally the Star Wars Black figures, which are also 6-inch highly detailed figures. And these are all made by Hasbro. They use either similar or the same general body configurations as far as the joint structures, and the parts are actually interchangeable to some degree. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a future video that's a little more dedicated to the topic, because I have a lot more of the Marvel Legends than the other two. Like, I only have one Black Series figure for Star Wars, and that's Darth Revan, because I don't want a third line of figures that I'm going to need several copies of figures that run like $20 a pop, because, you know, no display has one Stormtrooper. They have multiples. So, I like to avoid going down that rabbit hole if I can. Again, fingers crossed. The ones I kind of want to talk about here are the G.I. Joe Classified series, because I think they look really good. I think they're better detailed than the Marvel Legends figures, which makes a little bit of sense because Hasbro owns the G.I. Joe license. They're not licensing it from Hasbro, so part of the money isn't going towards just being able to make the figures, just having permission to make the figures. So they're able to dedicate that money to better sculpts, you know, better detail, more accessories, more bang for your buck. But the two lines very easily coexist in terms of scale and appearance and everything. And yeah, so I, in general, collect more of the Cobra figures than the G.I. Joe figures. And looking at the Reddit forum, I think I'm definitely not the only one on that front. I definitely see people have a lot more Cobra figures than G.I. Joe figures. And that makes sense given the way Cobra's always portrayed as like large masses of the Faceless Legions of the Cobra Army. You know, then you have like Cobra Commander, Destro, Major Blood, the Baroness, Tomax and Zaymot, you know, someone leading them. But basically the nameless, faceless hordes versus the handful of like ultra special forces on the G.I. Joe team. But I don't know, for me I just always preferred the way the Cobra soldiers looked. You know, they looked a lot cooler. That doesn't mean I don't buy the Joe figures. I do have a number of them. I believe, let's see, so far I've got Flint, Lady J, I don't think I've bought a Snake Eyes yet. And that's only because I know I have like 5 to choose from. Well, I had Gung Ho, but I modified him into one of the Marauders. I'm actually looking for his other one, the one that looks more like his cartoon appearance. I for whatever reason, prefer that look for him. So if I can find that one, that's what I'm going to go with for him. And then I have Spirit. He's pretty cool. Comes with a lot of accessories, and his Eagle, Freedom. That might be it for the moment. I know I plan on trying to get a hold of Beachhead, probably Dusty, and then probably Stalker, and some version of Duke, you know, because he's the field leader. Yeah, after that we'll have to see, because there's, you know, I'm just not super attached character-wise to many of them beyond like a core set. Oh, Shipwreck, he's coming out, definitely buying him. He had character. Yeah, I don't know. Then you got the some other guys like kind of generic, like the regular version of Rock and Roll, just the green fatigue version, like Vietnam fatigue version. Not a big fan of that one. I liked his updated version that came with the twin heavy machine guns. Yeah, there's a bunch of others I'll probably buy. Like, you know, they make a halfway decent tunnel rat. I'll buy him. Probably Dial Tone and Mainframe, because Joe's going to need tech support out in the field. Scarlet, she actually has a couple of figures, but they're from the Snake Eyes movie, I think. And people have been able to cobble together a halfway decent one by swapping parts and adding some paint apps and whatnot. But if I'm paying $20 a figure, like, the figures, I don't need to be heavily modifying it to make it acceptable. So I'm going to wait till there's a decent version of her. Hopefully not modeled after her cartoon costume, because it does not look at all practical for combat. I think CoverGirl has a figure coming up, I think. I don't remember if it's Wetsuit or Torpedo has one coming up. I don't know. That's one I'll debate on when I see it. He apparently comes with a ton of gear, though. And he can somehow hold all of it all at once. So I'll have to actually see that in action before I believe that. But yeah, that's a lot of what I want to see on the Joe team. Some other guys, as long as their figures like Falcon has a figure coming out. Sergeant Slaughter has a figure. I need to get a hold of it. And then, like I said, a version of Snake Eyes. We'll see beyond that. For Cobra, I'm kind of surprised that one of the figures they've already made is the Alley Viper, because because of such limited slots and the fact that they've kind of reinvigorated, relaunched the line like a couple times throughout the 2000s. They almost always started with the figures that came out between like 82 and 86, give or take, which for Cobra would mean the upper command, Cobra Commander, Destro, the Baroness, those guys, Storm Shadow, and then as far as the soldiers, it would be the generic blue Cobra soldiers with like the helmets, the black bandanas over the lower half of their face. The Cobra officers who wear a similar outfit but have a silver Cobra emblem on their chest. If they did the vehicles, they'd re-release the Stinger and have the Stinger driver, because it's the same exact mold. He's just in a gray or tan, I think it's gray, with red. And they would do that. Then somewhere in the next couple waves, they'd release the regular generic Cobra Viper. And then they'd like repaint the Viper 8,000 times in different ways. They'd release like the Crimson Guards. And things like that. So this time it's kind of odd because they released the soldiers first as a Target exclusive, which all the Target exclusives have been a major pain to find. So they released the regular Cobra soldiers, and then they released the Cobra Vipers again as a Target exclusive. Now the Target exclusives are being re-released, just with like fewer accessories. These are the ones that like have a bajillion firearms on them and all kinds of like extra like body armor parts and just a bunch of extra stuff. So, and that's the nice thing, is they are releasing like these deluxe versions of the figures, but then also like the more trimmed down versions at a more reasonable price. So ever so slowly, the regular Cobra soldiers without all the bells and whistles are finding their way out to retail, but it's excuse me, it's just taken a while. And so you have those. You have the Vipers and the Cobra Bats, which are battle android troopers. Those came out in '86, I believe. But the same wave that had the Bats also had the Alley Vipers, who came out in like 89 or 90, like somewhere right around in there. They're a lot farther into the line than almost any other figures, which is kind of surprising, which number one means they skipped over a ton of other figures to get to them. But number two also shows that, you know, this isn't just we're just going to redo the core figures from the first 4 or 5 years. Like, they plan on really jumping in. So that's interesting. The Alley Vipers look really cool. Tons of accessories, you know, tons of little bits and baubles and everything. The only problem is they share the same problem that the original Alley Vipers had, in that they are neon orange, which is not very effective for camouflage, as I'm sure you can imagine. And even in an urban environment, you stick out like a sore thumb. So some people speculate that their real purpose, and the reason why they come with a giant shield, is because they're supposed to draw attention while, like, the soldiers and the bats and everything are doing their thing. Which, I mean, maybe. So what I'm hopeful for is that they get repainted in a more reasonable color scheme, because the original Alley Vipers, outside of that original like super neon orange one, all the later iterations had far more realistic, that's not even the best word here, because I think the Alley Viper 2 was black and gold. But eventually they came around to urban colors like grays and blues, and, you know, actually, you know, what you'd expect of urban camouflage. So, in the line, they've shown a willingness to repaint figures already. There are Target exclusive Python Patrol and Tiger Force figures. Now, these two things came about, I want to say around by 87, 88. It's where they took some older figures from the line, Python Patrol for Cobra, Tiger Force for G.I. Joe, and repainted them. And these essentially were like the special forces for the two teams. It's like the Tiger Force was like a cream of the crop super ultra special forces, because the Joes are already super ultra special forces. And for Cobra, they were, you know, like the elite of the elite kind of guys. And for Cobra in particular, theirs was meant to be some kind of like radar absorbing material and paint scheme and everything, so that it adds to a level of stealth. Hence the whole like Python Patrol, the whole Serpentine Cobra theme thing going on. And so, like, the Cobra Vipers and the Cobra Bats have already been repainted in the Python Patrol scheme. So, you have that, and their Cobra officers are already up for pre-order as well. Technically, the Bat and the Viper are also still on pre-order, and have been for a year now, actually over a year, October of 2021. But they were put up for pre-order at the same time as Tiger Force Outback, and he is finally seeing release, and people have spotted the Python Patrol figures in the stores in Targets. So everyone's hoping that that means they're going to start shipping really soon for people that actually ordered them. Hopefully. As someone who ordered them, hopefully. But since this shows they're willing to repaint the figures in this line as well, and more importantly go outside the lines, because the original Python Patrol, the Bat was not part of the original Python Patrol lineup. So, and also the Bat is going to get another repaint next year as part of the Crimson Guard, which they've never done those as a Crimson Guard in the original lineup either. So hopefully that means that the Alley Viper will be an easy repaint, because they've got all the parts and everything to just, you know, repaint the figure. I don't necessarily know if I'd want to see it as a Python Patrol figure. I mean, it could look good depending on which way they go, because all the Python Patrol figures, although they use similar colors, they don't really have like a cohesive pattern to how those colors are applied, and where like the scale motifs are applied, and So like you can look at them collectively and say, hey, this is a collective group, but like put two of them side by side and they're not painted the same way. Okay, if that makes sense. Try to do another one of these videos with some pictures of some of these things for those of you who have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Uh, anyway, so hopefully that means that like I said, that they'll be repainted. And personally, I think the easiest way would just be to create another subdivision within the Cobra military, because you have the Python Patrol, you're going to have the Crimson Guards, uh, whereas the Joes have the Tiger Force, Slaughter's Marauders, the Night Force. Both sides had Eco Warrior figures. Hopefully, it's a while before we see any of those. That's a neon nightmare right there. Except for the Sludge Viper, I don't know. I always personally liked the figure. Don't know why. And the regular Toxo Viper from like '87, I think would make a really cool classified figure, just because of all the accessories and doodads and the level of detail they could put into it. I think it'd be a really cool figure. Same reason I really want to see like the Snow Serpents, the Cobra Eels, just characters that have like tons of gear, and little details that they could put into them. Those will be awesome. But yeah, so I would make like an urban assault force. I don't know, some name that makes sense within Cobra, but has to deal with urban stuff. But redo the Alley Viper in more realistic urban paint schemes. They've already made two other versions of the Bat, so I'm sure it'll be in there too. And then either the regular Cobra soldiers and officers or the Vipers. I don't know if I'd go with both. Probably the soldiers. Maybe even update the Cobra Shock Trooper, I think, which was a 3 3/4 inch figure from well after the relaunch. I think it might even technically be a movie figure, even though it's not in the movies at all. It looks like a regular Cobra soldier, but more of a tactical helmet. I think had a face shield, and then also had like the big riot shield, and like a submachine pistol kind of weaponry, for urban combat. So something like that would be nice. And then, if they're just gonna keep repainting things, come up with some kind of jungle theme too, and there do your Vipers and soldiers. Hopefully by then we'll have the Night Viper, who would also go well for the urban team. Or they could just jump straight ahead to the later figures and redo the Jungle Viper, which always looked like a super deluxe Night Viper to me, but it's got all kinds of stuff with it. It looked really cool. And then one of the variants for the Bat that actually did come out there was the Jungle Bat. So imagine the Bat with a camouflage and a giant Gatling gun. So basically a robot to replace Jesse Ventura in the movie Predator. But yeah, something like that. And hey, go wild with the Joe team too. Give them some other, add some more guys to the Tiger Force that were never on there. For the Slaughter's Marauders, give them an urban assault division too. Give them more urban camouflage. Maybe a desert set. Have Dusty lead them. Wouldn't need to repaint him though, because he already looks like he's in the desert. And if they ever run out of options, they can always make stuff based on G.I. Joe the movie, the animated movie, where we could have all kinds of Cobra people in winter coats so that they could lead an assault on the Joe team with a bunch of Vipers and Motor Vipers, even though they have dedicated polar assault troops called Snow Serpents. You only see one of them in the entire battle, and he's manning the back gun on a vehicle that's escaping. That's probably why they lost. because they didn't bring Arctic troops to an Arctic battle. Ridiculous. Uh, but also the Joe team, bunch of guys in fur coats also. Uh, so yeah, some options there. Plus the Cobra Law people, they actually look really good as classified figures. Guys like Nemesis Enforcer and Colobulus and the Royal Guards and Pythona. Yeah, they look really cool. I definitely buy them. As ludicrous as the movie is, like they would make really cool looking figures. So anyway, that's probably enough rambling for now. So we'll get a future video, have some pictures of some of these things, and actually show you some of the figures that are out right now, and little bits and baubles that come with them, and maybe we'll get Chad's take on what would be cool to add to the line. Don't think Brad collects these or has any interest in them, but you never know. We'll ask his opinion. If you know, if it sounds like something he'd want to talk about, we'll get him on to talk about. But otherwise, it'll probably be Chad. And if we can ever get our friend Jim involved, maybe him too. So anyway, you know how it goes here at the ends of these videos. If you liked what you heard, hit the like, subscribe, share it around. Any kind of commentary. Like I said, we will do a later video kind of showing off the figures that we already have. And if we can, maybe put some pictures into this one. If I can edit it correctly, I'll throw some pictures in so you know what the hell I'm talking about for some of these things. But yeah, so we'll do that. And if you agree with any of what I said as far as, hey, those would be cool figures, or disagree, or you'd rather see other figures, or whatever, put it down in the comment section. All the little things that YouTube loves to have. But otherwise, see you guys next time I'm in the car with something to talk about.